watching NRATV with Bill Whittle.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Hot Mike Show. I'm Bill Whittle, live from Los Angeles, and unfortunately, Hot Mike had a little pain in his right side, and he's driving around the streets of Beverly Hills trying to find somebody who can remove his thesaurus. He's a little tough on comprehension sometimes. We expect to have him back tomorrow, though. Well, the world is on fire, obviously, and the end of civilization has come. Dogs and cats raining from the skies, lions and lambs lying down together. The end of the republic is here because, according to the left, the harbinger of the apocalypse is the fact that Chris Rock is running for the Senate in Michigan. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I think I keep saying Chris Rock, Kid Rock. I can get him right. Kid Rock is running for Senate in Michigan, and I think really, there's an awful lot to talk about in regard to this. But I think the thing I'd like most about the idea is for some sort of just real arcane kind of a committee meeting, and just out in the middle of nowhere, and I'd like to have somebody say the chair recognizes the senator from Michigan, and then he sits there and he goes, "My name is Kid Rock." That's the way you start a Senate meeting. You get a little spark in there. So aside from the fact that Kid Rock, who's pretty conservative, is running for Senate, people are having a conniption fit about the entire idea of this. This, of course, following on the election of Donald Trump, is to the left. This is simply the end days of the sort of uncouth demise of America. So there's a lot of things to say about this. I think probably most people, when they're confronted with the idea of Kid Rock, certainly those on the left, would start with, well, Kid Rock, what are his qualifications? What possibly qualifies Kid Rock to be a Senate candidate? That's a really good question. And when you hear that criticism coming at you from Democrats, you have to ask yourself, well, you're right, you make a great point. What is, how is Kid Rock qualified? What are his credentials? This from a political party that elected a Senator Al Franken, senator from Minnesota, I suspect it was, who, by the way, pretty much convincingly stole his election. But Al Franken has been he's one of the lions of the Senate for the left. Now, Al Franken was a washed-up comedian who did a couple of seasons on Saturday Night Live back shortly after it was funny, and he's been there for, I don't know, 7 years now, something like that, maybe earlier, maybe 2008. He's been there for a while. The liberal firebrand today in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, was ranting and raving about Obamacare. Chuck Schumer's not as bright as Hot Mike, to be honest with you, really. So I'm not sure about that. And then you get people like Nancy Pelosi, who basically marry into millions of dollars and then proclaim themselves to be champions of the republic. But the basic thing is the idea that you might be disqualified for the Senate because maybe you don't have sufficient IQ or sufficient political background. In response to that, I would simply say this. Here's a quick clip from a hearing that occurred in March 25th of 2010, when a member of the House of Representatives of the United States of America was quizzing an admiral upon the Navy's idea to put another 8,000 troops on the island of Guam. Please behold the magnificence of Representative Hank Johnson.
To your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
I should know that admiral's name because I have to tell you, in the extremely proud and honorable annals of the U.S. Navy, I'm not sure I've ever seen that kind of control before. For that admiral to not burst out laughing there, I think the man should be given some sort of extremely impressive decoration. Yeah, we don't want the island of Guam to tip over. So I don't think we're really dealing with an issue of what is your minimum IQ here. I think the entire issue of Kid Rock running for Senate is a very appropriate thing for us to discuss. Just before we bring in our guests, there's one more thing I'd like to say about this whole issue, just to kind of broaden out the canvas a little bit. I'd like to show you a picture of one of the founders. He may be the most famous man you've never heard of. His name's Gouverneur Morris. There he is. And who is this guy, you may want to ask yourself? Well, Gouverneur Morris was in charge of the Committee on Style, and basically that served a much more important function than you may think. Essentially what happened during the framing of the Constitution was a bunch of very smart people got in a room and slowly and deliberately hammered out exactly how the government was going to function, how it was going to work, what was going to happen, what was the actual owner's manual of this government going to look like. And when they figured out the rules, they handed it over to the Committee of Style led by Gouverneur Morris, and it was his job to make sure that the Constitution was written in a language that everyone could understand. If you could read English, you could understand this government. That is a remarkably difficult task. Any idiot can make things complex. It takes a genius to make things simple. Gouverneur Morris was the man who made the Constitution understandable and readable. In fact, I'm pretty sure that these actual words are his because he had a little room left over. 4,400 words for the Constitution in total, by the way, is considerably less than the owner's manual for a Toyota Camry. Morris also wrote, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." That came from that pen and that mind. So the entire principle is really at stake here, and let's get down into the weeds with that. So let's bring on our guest, who's somebody I've met before, but he's been a guest here before, Jeff Crouere. He's a political analyst, and he's a host of Ringside Politics. Jeff, good to have you with us today.
Hey, thanks, Bill.
Jeff, there are, in fact, legal requirements to be a senator, and they are in Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution. 3 qualifications for senators. 1, they must be at least 30 years old. I'm pretty sure Kid Rock qualifies there. 2, they must have been citizens of the United States for at least the past 9 years. And 3, they must be inhabitants of the state they seek to represent. I think Chris Rock is qualified to be Senator of the United States from the great state of Michigan. What do you think?
I love the idea, Bill. I mean, I think Kid Rock is a great entertainer. I mean, I think he's been a genius in marketing himself. He's someone who's been interested in politics. He goes against the grain. I like anybody in the world of entertainment that goes against the sort of groupthink that you see among all these stars. And it takes a lot of courage to sort of stand out on your own and say, hey, I'm going to be a conservative. I'm for the Second Amendment. I'm for building up our military. He's a real patriot, I think, and he's someone that I think speaks for Michigan. He loves Michigan. He's grown up there. Obviously, you can see it from his concerts. He's a proud native son. And I hate to tell the Democrats, but I think we're going to be looking at Senator Kid Rock. I mean, I think he's going to win. I really do.
You know, Jeff, you make a really interesting point, because the entire case I was going to make, and I'm about to make, and I think is essentially the case, is that representation of the people means of the people. That's what we want. We don't want professionals. I'll come back to that in a second. But you raise a very interesting point there in your answer, and that is, you think that the first quality that emerged regarding Kid Rock was his willingness to be unpopular in a business that is so unbelievably heavily progressive, that he's willing to stand up for his principles and take the abuse that comes with being a conservative in show business. That's a profound actual insight that does require a certain amount of courage and commitment to principles, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does. You see so few, Bill. I mean, it really is the rare occasion when you have a conservative singer, actor step forward. And Kid Rock has not been bashful. He's been doing it for years. He's someone who's had a long career. So he's got not only talent, but he really has the ability, I think, to connect with fans of different age groups. And I think that's going to help him in a political campaign. He's got, I think, a lot of passion and energy. And I think he's right on the issues that I've seen him communicate ideas. I think he's pretty much on target. And I think he can represent the working class, the people that are so often overlooked, the blue collar workers, the folks out there that are struggling. I mean, I think they'll really identify with someone like Kid Rock. He sort of has this blue collar appeal to him. And I think he's going to be an interesting candidate to watch. I really hope, Bill, that this is going to happen.
You know, that constituency that you mentioned, basically working class people, is what got us President Donald Trump. And there's an awful lot of very important consequences of that demographic, Jeff. And it's not just that you pick up extra votes, because being the champion of the working man against these large forces of corporations, that's not just the Democratic core constituency, that's their reason for existence. It's the entire Democratic Party. The only reason there is a Democratic Party is, at least if you look at the history of the Democratic Party, is that we stand for the little guy against the big guy. I don't particularly buy the whole premise, but nevertheless, that's what they're selling. For them to lose working class Americans to Donald Trump doesn't just mean the Democrats have a problem in terms of elections now. They've got a problem in terms of identity as well.
No doubt about it. And you identified it. That is the reason Donald Trump won. I mean, he took his traditional Republican base, expanded it into areas where Republican candidates haven't been competitive since Ronald Reagan, and really hit a home run and defied all the experts. And it was because of this appeal to the working class. And you're right, Democrats have turned their backs on these folks for decades. Democrats don't care about these people. These are struggling people that are having a hard time when you have unlimited illegal immigration coming in, when you have horrible trade deals. And those are some of the issues Donald Trump really talked about. And that's the only reason he's president today, is because he went against the grain and identified those issues, connected with that base that nobody said he could get, and he brought it home. And boy, I'm thankful every day, Bill, that Donald Trump is our president.
Yeah, me too, especially considering the alternative. And that's exactly right. Donald Trump's campaign was pretty simple. Make America great again. If you're a working class person, that means maybe there's going to be some effort to hang on to your job. Maybe there's going to be some effort to recognize your own needs and struggles. And the left now, for generations, really, has been ignoring, as you say, working class Americans and courting not only the billionaires in Silicon Valley, but also the beautiful, beautiful millionaires in the Hollywood Hills. And I think working people feel abandoned, and I think Kid Rock's got a pretty good chance. If you can stay with us, we'll be right back. Jeff will talk about some of the reasons why the left is so upset about all this. This is the Hot Mic Show on NRATV, and we'll be right back.